Hello, everybody. Today we are going to talk about the Hotline Fluid Warmer, how to set it up, and why you would use one. First, you're going to need to grab your hotline tubing, which you can just get out of the supply room. You will need to have several flushes that we are going to use to prime the hotline tubing. And then you're going to need to have your fluids that you intend to warm. So this could either be LR, NS, whatever, blood, any of that, just whatever you're planning to warm through the hotline. All right, so now that you've got all your supplies, the next thing we have to do is actually set it up. So the first thing, once you get it in the room, we need to check and make sure that this actually has water in it. So to do that, we are gonna grab some of our distilled water out of the supply room to fill up in here. So we have this in the supply room, just go grab it and we can top it off. There's just this little knob right here, just pops right out, and you can top it off. You can see the little line down here and up here. Just make sure the water is in there and someplace. All right, once that is topped off, we will plug in the hotline tubing. So we got our hotline tubing here. Comes wrapped up like this. We're gonna take this stuff off and throw it on the floor. And then you can see here, right here, this this orange cap. I'm just gonna pop it off. This is just to make sure water doesn't come leaking out like that. And you can see here, you can see this little connector piece right here. That just goes right into the hole. There's really only one way to put it in. It just goes in and just push it in, make sure it's in nice and secure. That is literally the only step to setting that up. Once it is plugged in, you now have to actually turn on the machine. And you can see here, this little power button. This is the only button on the actual machine. It just turns on. You can start to hear the pump flowing. So what's important, once that actually starts going, water should not actually be coming out of the end of this. If water is coming out, that means that there is a hole in this tubing and this distilled water will start leaking in and will actually get infused into the patient. So there should be no leaking out of this tube. If there is, get a whole new set of tubing and start over. But as you can see, no leaking. All right, so now that we have this hooked in, we need to now prime the inner lumen. And so how this works is you actually have a kind of an outer lumen that has this warm fluids circulating through that. And then this inner lumen is what your IV fluids actually infuse through. And this is what gets warmed up through that. All right, so now that it's connected, we're gonna go ahead and flush or go ahead and prime. I found the easiest way is to just use some NS flushes from the cart. We are just gonna connect it right here. This clamp right here, make sure it's undone. And I found it takes about three full flushes. Pro tip, clamp this. If you take this off and it's unclamped, everything that you just put through is just gonna gravity flow out through. So clamp that and move on to the next one. And we're just gonna do unclamp, flush, and look at that. I'm actually in 2 of them. All right, didn't even need 3. All right, so we have our primed line. We have our IV fluids that we want to run through. So we literally just take from the pump, the bottom down here, and we are just going to connect it here and unclamp, and you are set to go. You can go ahead and, because you got your prime limed and you can feel it's already pretty warm, you just go ahead and connect this to your patient. So it's just gonna be connected. And then just like anything else, the actual rate is set by your pump here and not by this. So you can run 999, you can run it at 10 mils an hour, whatever rate you want, it will go at, and it will be warmed to 40 degrees Celsius through this. All right, so now that we have it set up, we have our fluids running through our Hotline Warmer. Let's go ahead and talk about why we would actually even use this thing. Clearly, we would use a fluid warmer to warm our patient. And so this is one of my favorite things, really, because we don't need a doctor's order to use this. We don't need a doctor to tell us in an emergent situation to go grab this and get it set up. We can just notice that our patient is hypothermic and we need to warm them up. So if we have a trauma patient or a post-op patient that comes in 34, 35 degrees Celsius, that cold temperature really impairs a lot of the processes that go on in our body, and are part of several processes that all kind of interact. So there's something called the lethal triad that you may hear of in traumas, and what that refers to are acidosis, coagulopathy, and hypothermia, and each one of those interacts the other. So as one gets worse, it causes the others to get worse. And of those three, this is the only one that we can control without having to have a doctor's order. Like we would have to have a doctor's order to give bicarb to fix, or fluids to fix an acidosis. We would have to have a doctor's order to give factors or plasma to fix a coagulopathy. However, we do not need a doctor's order to just go get this and start warming up the patient. And you'll also find maybe you got your patient on all the levo, all the epi, and they're 34 degrees. And suddenly you get this hooked up and their temperature starts rising up to 36, and you will notice all that levo, all that epi is suddenly working, because all of those kind of processes are temperature dependent. So it is important that we fix and correct those hypothermias kind of as quick as possible. And that's why I love this machine right here, because we can do that without a doctor's order. We have the Belmont that also warms fluid, blood. So why would you use this as opposed to the Belmont? And Belmont's great. Jeff will tell you all about it. But the Belmont runs in mils per minute, not mils per hour. So you could give liters in minutes. And sometimes we don't need that. That's not really what we're looking for. So if all you need is just normal fluid resuscitation from a pump and you're not needing thousands of mils an hour, then just get your warmer, warm the fluids through the hotline, and use your pumps to control the rate. And that way we're not gonna just fluid overload and salt water drown our patients. And one of the other things that we need to be aware of is that this is a one temperature. There isn't a dial to set it. It just warms to 40 degrees. This outer layer of water here just warms to 40 degrees Celsius. So keep an eye on your patient's temperature. What you don't want is to forget that this is running and you come back a couple hours later and their temperature is 40 degrees Celsius. So I like to just keep an eye on it. And once the patient's temperature reaches 36 degrees Celsius, just turn it off. That's all you need to do. You can continue if you don't even want to mess with readjusting your pumps or anything. You can just turn it off, and that way it no longer is warming, but you can just keep everything flowing as it is and get to that later. But turning it off when the patient reaches 36 degrees Celsius will prevent you from accidentally overshooting and then ending up with a 40, 41 degrees Celsius patient, because that has its own other problems. So that's definitely one thing to keep an eye out for. All right, guys, so that is the Hotline Warmer, how you set it up, why you would use it. So as always, if you have any questions, please reach out to me, one of your supervisors. We will be glad to answer any questions or walk you through setting this up. So I hope this becomes one of your favorite pieces of equipment like mine, and thanks for watching.